What is up, everybody? It is Jake with the MF Film Room, back at it again. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be updated on all things EA College Football, hit that red subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. Do it right now. Hit it. I'm telling you, we're trying to build this family going. Hit the like button too. That also helps out the algorithm. And also follow me on X/Twitter. That fam is growing. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys. So I have my other channel, Master Football with Jake Posey, talking about college football. I'm taking some of those videos over here, reposting them here to make sure I can find this community. There's so much excitement we have going on right now. It's coming out. There's little things that are dropped here and there. We saw the report from Matt Brown just recently. I'm also going to go over an interview he had with a YouTuber named 2B Light, who does a lot of college football revamp stuff right here. This is a repost from my other channel. Again, I removed it from there, putting it on here. Check it out. Let me know what you guys think and subscribe, because I'm telling you right now, if you want the one-stop shop for all things EA College Football, come here. I got you guys. Without further ado, let's get into the video. But I just saw the ending of West Virginia, Houston. That is going to be a wild storyline to look at. But again, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about something that I saw just the other day related to EA College Football. There's been a very light amount of information coming out about this game. I am personally jacked about it. I know many of you subscribe to my channel because of this. But there was an interview that really went into a lot of details, because there's been one man who has been behind reporting most of this information, and we're going to get into that real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of who's doing the talking, where the talking was, kind of the breakdown of all the information. I've got a PowerPoint slide with 3 different sections in it to kind of go through that information there. Most importantly, at the very end there's going to be some very juicy tidbits at the end there. First of all, let's make sure we know who we're talking about and what we're talking about. First thing here was you come over to this link, and I will make sure I include this into the description. I've watched this 3 different times on 3 different channels. It's absolutely a fantastic video. I encourage you all to go watch it here. I'm going to summarize it, but again, I really like this information because there is some commentary you can have off of this. But it's 2B Light, and again, I'm gonna subscribe. Hey, 2B Light, I'm with you, buddy. Also, hit me up. I want to make sure we talk about this later on. But 2B Light, he says, I interviewed the guy who knows the most about EA Sports College Football, the media member that knows the most. Obviously, there's devs in this and that, but they're trying to keep this close to their chest. In fact, so much so that the guy who is doing the reporting here, the guy he interviews, Matt Brown of Extra Points, he actually even said that some of the people at EA are a little upset at some of the releases that he's had based on how much information he's released. First of all, we'll talk about 2B real quick. All right, so 2B Light looks like it is an EA College Football centric channel. You see most of what he does here. He's got NCAA Football 2014 in the banner here. He also does a lot on EA College Football Revamped, which is the updated version of EA College Football. Again, I encourage anybody else here to go subscribe. I already did. Why does it say that? Anyways, Instagram /bring NCAA back. Well, it's coming, buddy. As a matter of fact, you just did an interview on it. But now let's go to the guy you just interviewed, Matt Brown of Extra Points. So here is Matt Brown's Twitter. And again, his Twitter is important. He'll release some information here. But for the most part, where are you going to want to follow him most often? Because most of the updated information is going to be his Substack, and it's going to be by subscription only, because like he said, he has a lot of these requests that he's doing. Some of this costs money. Here's where you can find him at for that. Here is his newsletter. I think I said Substack there, but here's his newsletter. You can check out and see all this stuff. What he really talks about here, for the most part, is he talks about the business around college sports, because as you can see here, all of conference realignment, EA College Football, there's a lot of things that go into this behind, kind of like what ADs have to do, what universities are thinking about, what, presidents and what broadcasters and so on. There's a lot of things that go into that. He breaks a lot of this down here. Subscribe to this newsletter. I'm telling you, it will be worth it. So like I said, we're going to go through a PowerPoint here to summarize basically what's talked about. There's 3 big sections that I see that I want to make sure that I highlight. First one here is just basically the development of the game, kind of what's going on, how are things going, and so on, to a very important thing that is very talked about in this whole process is the licensing that goes into this. There's a ton of licensing issues based on college football as opposed to pro football or even soccer and things like that. It's no longer FIFA. It's actually EA FC. So there's that. And then also there's other additional notes at the end that are kind of in between a couple of those, but those might have the most juicy information out of all. But again, let's start into that really quickly here. First, we're going to go through his process, and then what we have on development, licensing, and those other tidbits. Let's go. So the first thing here from Matt Brown is how he obtains this information. And one of the big things that you'll need to realize here is he even says it here. The reason why he charges for his newsletter is because he's like, yo, dude, this stuff costs money. I have to go out. I have to send $108 to Kennesaw State, $107 to this school, $110 to that school for these open records requests. But he says right here, that's how he gets his information. He gets information from open records requests with public schools. There's public information. So what you can do with that is that if you pay a certain amount of money, you file a motion of some sort, you can get a request to get that information. It costs money. So that's why he charges for his newsletter. What he does here is he includes the contracts and emails between employees and conversations with CLC, Collegiate Licensing Corporation, the corporation that signed the deal for EA College Football to come back, or EA Sports. And also, he says he has relationships with developers to provide context to some of his information he gets from requests, because remember here, he gets a lot of information here. So basically he says, hey, why are you requesting this? Why are you requesting that? And the devs can say, oh, that's for this, that's for that, and so on. All right, the first thing here we're going to talk about is the development of the game. So we see here that very important for these things, the design leads for the game are degenerate college football fans. And he was very adamant about saying that. He's like, I'm a degenerate. We're part of the sickos community and all this stuff. They're degenerate college football fans. There's not as many college football fans as there are NFL fans, but the college football fans are way more rabid. And they're, again, I heard Colin Cowherd and Joel Klatt talk about this on his show recently, where he basically said, if college football was a stock, buy it right now because it's only going to get bigger. He also said here that of the development, he said that 0% of the code from NCAA 14 can be used. Take it, throw it out. It's just what it is. Just because that's two consoles ago. So if you have an Xbox as an example, Xbox 360, then Xbox One, and now we're on Xbox Series S and X. The code was on Xbox 360, not even close. Again, I still have my Xbox 360 right over there. But we also talked about the game release. It said it was moved to summer of 2024. EA is still operating as if summer 2024 is the target release. They did that for a couple different reasons. One of the things they wanted to make sure, and the reason why, was because the leads know you cannot do a carbon copy of Madden because they are different games. Again, that's the reason why they said the 0% code. We have to delay it a year because they're literally recreating this game. It's very similar, obviously, to Madden. It's football, but there's certain aspects that are way different. In college football, right here, it says 70% of college football offenses and that's a rough estimate, have RPO elements in them, which is a newer scheme and requires newer animations. I understand that in Madden, they have RPOs now, but again, it's not exactly the same. In college football, you're allowed to go 3 yards down the field, as opposed to the NFL, you're allowed to go 1 yard down the field on a pass play for offensive linemen. And again, he mentions here that run and shoot does not exist as much in Madden as in college football. Very important. Some of the concepts here and there, they're not always the same. Also wanted to make sure here it says that the leads know they need to get it right. Get it right by the release of the game and make sure that it was good. Remember, it was rumored that it was going to come out in July of 2023. They said, no, let's do July of 2024. We want to get this right because they know it's going to be 11 years since the game came out. If they get this wrong, there's a lot of people going to have that bad taste in their mouth with that release. We've seen the situations with a lot of games that were released unfinished. They want to avoid that. Now, I know people are saying, oh, well, lots of teams or developers say that and then they still screw it up. Remember here, I'm telling you, can you imagine if they released it and it wasn't prepared? It would have been a crapshoot for them to deal with. Also down here on the development, it says that all teams that have stadiums that aren't also NFL stadiums are being requested tons of photos of stadiums for realism and presentation. So to make sure we're clear about that, as an example, Heinz Field is where the Pittsburgh Steelers play. It's also where the Pittsburgh Panthers play. So there's a couple stadiums like that where they're like, do we already have the 3D rendering of the stadium? There's a couple things here and there that we'll need just to make sure we have where you have your banners, this and that. But for the most part, those stadiums are set. The other ones, the college football exclusive ones, they want to make sure they have pictures of this, pictures of that, pictures of the vendor. They want to have, and you see the item down there, third down chats, team chants, songs they play at certain times that are being thrown in. They want to make sure that they ask the teams about the rivalry trophies and the traditions, things like that. As an example, you think about when Clemson, they go their run down that hill for Death Valley. We think about, other things in college football where there are traditions. That's what they want to include here. There's a lot more that goes into that with college football. The pageantry is a lot more than the NFL. They need to make sure they get that right because, remember, 0% of the code can be copied from NCAA 2014 over to EA College Football. I suppose it's going to be 2025. That's what's going to be EA 2025, EA CFB 2025. just thinking about it. All right, continuing on with the development here, it says that the game will be on PS5 and Xbox Series S and X, and is unconfirmed for PC, and it will not be on Nintendo Switch. Okay, so the previous generations, it's not going to be on there. Oh my god, I can't believe they would do that. Well, they're going to have a lot of new cool things in the game. They can't do it on a PS4 or on an Xbox One, something like that. We also know this. ESPN has a special agreement with EA, so ESPN will be providing the commentary. Matt Brown couldn't confirm nor deny whether or not Fox or CBS would also be in the game, but he knew that ESPN is going to be in the game. He said here that Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, and Desmond Howard have already provided commentary. He says, quote, unsure if it's, or this is me saying here, I'm unsure if this is new or from NCAA 2014. And again, because Herbstreit, you have to remember, when they do those voice recordings, it takes hours to do that. It takes days. It takes a long, long, long time to do that. Hiring multiple people and so on, that's going to take a lot more time. Again, there's a finite amount of time they have to get this done. We see here that there's some lesser known personalities will be included from ESPN, but who is in public knowledge? He said like Paul Feinbaum, it won't be one of him. But think about this. There's one big name and another big group that could be included. Let's check it out right here. The first one to be included is going to be Chris Fowler. As you know, Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler, they call some of those big ESPN games touchdown. He is, I'm just betting, he's more than likely going to be in the game. Again, remember a couple years ago, it wasn't him. He might be in it now. That's my guess. It's pure speculation, but that's what I'm thinking. Also, remember here, in a lot of games where they kick it over to, the halftime show or something like that, a lot of times you have college football final, college football scoreboard, or whatever. Matthew Berry here, we've got Joey Galloway, and then we also have the coach Dan Mullen, and we see Jesse Palmer right here. But for the most part, it's those three who do this. So wouldn't be surprised if they're included in the game in some capacity. That's just speculation, but that's my speculation. It also mentions here that general uniforms are being requested from universities. So as an example, they're being requested to make, you can generally, if you go to a team's Wikipedia page, you'll see on the right side of the screen, it'll give you kind of what their jersey combination is. Some teams like Oregon have 1,000 and so on. That's what the situation is there. So they request the current jerseys from the team. Some have a lot, some have a little. It just depends on what you do there. However, the historic uniforms don't come from the university, where a information request can work, where you can just send them an information request and say, hey, what have you sent them? Oh, we sent them all of this information. The historic uniforms come from Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, and so on. So if you ask them, they're going to say, no, we're a private company. We can do whatever the hell we want. So it's unclear as to whether or not we're going to have, the powder blues for Ole Miss or something like that. Because again, those are properties of Under Armour, Nike, and Adidas. And so I know that they're joint with universities, but those items requests come directly from them because they have that historic data. Also said down here, he says that Matt has been informed EA wants, quote, lots of jersey options from schools. So for those of you who remember the last games before, some teams would have one option on offense, one option on defense, and so on. They want to be moving away with that because the cool thing about college football is the jerseys, the pageantry, and the presentation. They want to make sure they get it right. All right, another important section here. Again, like I said, first thing was development. Second section up here was the licensing, because licensing for college football is way harder than it is for the NFL. The NFL, there's the NFLPA, there's the NFL, there's the Refs Association, there's lots of places like that. Once you get signature from those three entities, it's over, it's all handled. But licensing in college football is way different. There's a reason why this was delayed so much. This game was because of the complications with NIL and the complications with the Ed O'Bannon case. There's lots of stuff there. But it goes into this expectation here. The most important thing here is he says, the expectation is for every FBS team in 2024 to be in the game. Not all of those teams currently have signed the agreement to be in the game, but think about this. Although they haven't signed that agreement to officially be in the final game product, even teams that have not signed the final licensing paperwork are still sending in assets for the game. They know if Notre Dame's not in the game, if Ohio State's not in the game, if a private school's not in the game, it's going to drastically ruin their recruiting for years, depending upon how long this game is popular, whether or not people do roster updates, and so on. So they want to make sure that, remember, the operations team is handling making sure they get it, and the marketing team is handling all this over here on the right side of the screen. On the left side of the screen, they're handling the negotiations between the licensing. They're going to get it done. They're already acting as if they are. They just got to make sure that every single asset, every single dollar here, boom, 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 all that is taken care of before they do it. So although all the teams haven't signed, they're all acting as if they're going to be in the game. It also says here that EA wants to license every single scholarship player on rosters for the 2024 season. It's over 12,000 athletes. So it says rosters used to be limited to 70 scholarship players. Now it's going to be 85, and we're going to have 133, 134 different FBS teams. There's some rumors are proposed to pay players $500 to $1,200 per, basically just for being in the game. So 12,000 times $500 to $1,200, whatever it is, that's a lot of money just to the players. So that's a separate issue to the players. Some people have said that the players could opt out. Like as an example, Caleb Williams could be a lot more than $1,200, whereas most college football players are worth probably $50. Maybe just given a free copy of the game, something like that. But EA is working that out. Again, the rumors between the $500 $1,200 have come from the people who have fallen out of the negotiations. So we don't really know what's going to happen there. But again, that is a rumor going on right now. And then the possibility of Service Academy players not being in the games due to NIL limitations to government employees is a serious situation, meaning that because they are government employees, technically, the NIL and marketing themselves, it's a weird complication there. The lawyers at Army, Navy, and the Air Force are trying to figure that out right now. So it could be every other team has their players in the game, but the service academies are generalized. We don't know. Also, make sure here, face scans are not coming for all 12,000 players because one, all the 12,000 players aren't going to be there because many of them are going to graduate or transfer or not going to play or whatever. There is interest for those people who will be around for more than one season. So if you're a top flight player and you get a special deal, maybe they have a 500, you're not going to get face scan. 1,200, you are. We come to you. I don't know what the situation is there, but he is saying that not all 12,000 college football players will be face scanned, but there might be some. That's what's going on there. Also important here, head coaches may be in the game, but their licenses are independent of schools and need to be done independently because of the volatility of coaching statuses. There is less of a demand for real coaches because, like you said, many college football coaches are going to be fired and never get that job again. I know that it's just going to be hard to go out there and get the real likeness also because there is no college football players union. It's hard to get an agreement for everybody. You have to do this on an individual basis. No idea what's going to happen there. But again, that is another issue you have to have with this whole licensing scenario. Also here with this is to make sure important with the licensing, Ultimate Team, and again, Ultimate Team is going to be in the game. Ultimate Team will include historic players. However, the historic college football players are group licensed. Most of them are. Those that are not included would be another hurdle and may not be included in the game. So you think about that. The fact that Ultimate Team more than likely is going to be in the game. But we have this scenario where, unfortunately, it's like, listen, if you're not a part of the, the group of historic college football players, it's like we can get you an individual license. But again, they'll get into this later on here as to why that's not necessarily realistic. We also go over the licenses for Enter Sandman, for Virginia Tech, or Jump Around for Wisconsin are complicated and may not be included as they need to be individually licensed. Licensing for an FCS stadium or an FCS school could be included. But remember here, spending time on that versus spending time on physics over that might be worth it. Again, remember here, an expectation with this game is it's not expected to sell more than 25% of Madden's sales. It puts into perspective how much they have to spend on the game. So like, why do they do this? Why do they do that? There's a lot that they can do with college football. It all needs to be licensed individually. There's a lot of red tape to go through here. Some of it might be thrown out. Enter Sandman might not be included. It sucks. It'd be really cool if they had it. But again, it's another hurdle they have to go through because there's so many separate entities in the entire game development process of college football. All right, the other items, I mentioned this before, this might be the juiciest section out of all of these sections here. So remember here, this gives you a couple of timelines on some certain things, also some game modes, in addition to what is the bigger questions going on in the future. So it says that trailers and gameplay information is not available this far out in advance. This far out meaning just a couple of days ago when Matt gave that interview with that YouTuber. He says the cover athlete is usually announced for sports games. The cover athlete is usually announced 3 to 4 months before the game comes out. So we're thinking sometime around March, maybe April, that's going to happen. Maybe even before that. We don't really know. There was some optimism about sharing some gameplay during this season, but it hasn't happened yet. There's no rumor on when it's going to happen. Matt Brown speculates that there will be something around the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised, a precursor to the national championship, a commercial during the national championship. Would not be surprised if something like that came out to help, continue the interest into the off season. Also, make sure that's important here. Dynasty mode is viewed as, quote, the flagship mode of the game. Unfortunately, for those who play Madden, you understand that EA, a lot of people think that EA is evil, and you understand the microtransaction hell that Madden Ultimate Team has. It seems like Dynasty mode is more important to college football than in the EA college football game than franchise mode is to Madden. So, Road to Glory and Ultimate Team will be included, but Dynasty mode, according to the devs, is viewed as the flagship mode of the game. Also mentions here that recruiting will not be like in NCAA 2014. In NCAA 2014, what you do is like you have, X amount of points to give a player in a week. You give them those points and you just let it passively recruit for you. Whether or not how that's going to change, I don't know, but it is going to look different here. He also mentions that transfer portal will be in the game. Thinking about how many players enter the transfer portal right now, and we saw the fact that, what was it? I think Hawaii a couple years ago had like 35, 40 players enter the transfer portal. Colorado had 68 new scholarship players, 86 new overall players, even including players that were on scholarship. We're going to see a lot of that happen in the game here. Is it going to be 86 every single team? I don't know. But whatever the average is probably going to come for a team near you. Remember, the rosters are bigger. Used to be the rosters were 70 and maybe 2 or 3 players would transfer every year. Now the roster is going to be 85, and it's probably going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 each team across the board. Also says that NIL will be included, NIL in terms of, but he doesn't know if it's going to be like specifically you get a certain amount of dollars at the beginning of the season, or if it's going to be something like a certain amount of like you get a certain amount of points that you can give somebody. He doesn't really know, but he says it will be included. He also says how to contact recruits will be in the game, and he says devs want the players to have players feel connected and excited about recruits they will be playing with next year. Meaning, as an example, you saw that Travis Hunter, he came over, and Shadur Sanders came over from Jackson State. More than likely, I don't know if head coach is leaving and taking their players. I don't know how that's going to happen. But I do know that more than likely, Travis Hunter only wanted to play with Shadur. Shadur only wanted to play with Travis Hunter, and obviously with his dad too. But you can see the fact that a lot of times what these recruits will do is like, hey, man, you going to Ohio State? I'm going to Ohio State. Man, let's play together. Let's do this. And let's say quarterback and a receiver, running back and a tight end, offensive guard and offensive tackle, whatever it is. A lot of those conversations happen in real life. They want the game to reflect that too. And last but not least, the most important item at the bottom here, which has more questions than answers, and also brings up a lot of potentially bad but potentially amazing scenarios. This last item here. The number one interest of Matt Brown is team builder and customization. He's like, I have no information on that. There's a lot of complicating factors there. He says there are some issues with getting around licensing due to customization. As you remember before, you used to be able to just make and Team Builder is a customization tool where you can go into EA College or NCAA Football 2014, 2013, and so on, and make, let's just say, Montana State wasn't in the game. You're like, I'm just going to make Montana State. Take their logo, copy their jersey as much as you can, bam, throw them on there. There's some complications with licensing, but if you make it customizable, there's no reason why you can't prevent that. I don't know how they prevent somebody from doing that. But again, maybe they give you only can use a certain amount of generic, teams. That would severely hamper the team builder aspects. But again, those are questions for a later day. So EA College Football is coming. We saw the interview with Matt Brown. There's a lot of cool things that are coming in there, okay? There's no code from the last game. It's not going to be a Madden carbon copy. They know that the game operates differently. They know that there's going to be, licensing of college football players. There's going to be, payments. There's a lot of complicating factors that aren't affected in Madden that are in EA College Football. But looks like the game's coming out. I'm really excited about it. And man, there's just the more information we get, the better it goes. We'll see what happens with Team Builder because there is some complications with customization and licensing there. But man, it looks like all the teams are going to be in the game. They're all acting as if they're going to be in the game, and I can't wait for it. All right, guys, get in the comments right now and let me know what you guys think. Remember here, okay, there's a lot of time to happen, and that's just what he's been able to release to that small private YouTuber. I'm going to make sure I'm trying to develop a relationship with that guy. I'd love to give him on my channel. But anyways, you guys get in the comments. Let me know what you think about all of that. And before you leave, remember, like, share, comment, subscribe, and subscribe to Matt, and subscribe to the other YouTube guys. Man, they're awesome. Go and check them out. But that's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.